JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. April 30th, 2024, the last day of the month. And then we're going to have sell in May and go away. I'm sure all that chatter will be around for the next day or two or into the weekend. But take a look. Markets were looking fine this morning, and there wasn't really much in the way of data. We have the JOLTS report tomorrow. We have the Fed. We have earnings after close with Amazon. We have Apple earnings on Thursday. And then we have the jobs report, the April jobs report on Friday. So I didn't think there was really much that was going to move markets here. And all of a sudden at 8:30, we have a big candle to the downside. Um, and it's on the employment cost index is came in at 1.2% versus a 1% estimate. I have never seen the US employment cost index ever be a data point that was ever changed the market, moved the market. I just posted in the chat room before. I remember back in the summer and the fall, the JOLTS report, right? The job openings report, that was moving the market. So I guess they're just looking at every piece of data that might point to some inflation. But the thing is, with the jobs report, it comes out with wage inflation. So I, you hear all these rumors now with the minimum wage and going up, and in places like California where these companies, especially the restaurants and fast food, are saying eventually the roosters are going to come to roost, right? There's going to be some kind of impact, whether it be to the service side, to margins, to any of that stuff, less staff. So I guess that's some of it, but interesting to see that the markets drop like that, especially ahead of the Fed tomorrow. So anyway, we'll see what happens. It kind of changed. My watch list is already done, but take a look at a SPY all the way up to 510. 59 is now the 50-day moving average. Tried to break through that yesterday. Then we had that news again. Another little piece of data that came out of nowhere at 3 o'clock. The Treasury announced that they were going to need to borrow $43 more billion for this quarter. I guess a shortfall in tax receipts or whatever it is. That sold off the market again, scrambling to see what was moving the markets, and it just seems any kind of negative piece of data is not getting overly but it's getting reacted to. So hopefully find some support here. SPY's down at 507.60. I think we were down to 507.50 or so after that Treasury data news yesterday before bouncing back and closing back over 510. So I'll have to see if it's another buy the dip or is this the start of another move to the downside. The VIX is up 3% this morning, so definitely I'm going to be watching the VIX. I was showing this yesterday afternoon and on the watch list this morning, 50% of the S&P companies are over their 50-day moving average. Figured the S&P is going to follow suit. Going to need to buy the dip here today for that to happen. So let me get into quick individual names. Added Biogen calls. That was a name I was watching last week after its earnings. Chopped around a little bit, so I passed. Had a nice pincher set up. And then sure enough, follow through yesterday. Once it started breaking into the teens, went and added some speculative calls. I might look for some later dated strikes to play for a move back to 230 or so, because I think it's one of those mega cap bio names that has kind of been left for dead. And maybe the earnings was the bottom, and then it could start to head higher. So that's why I got those calls. I'll continue to look for opportunities to play Biogen for upside. Also, at the end of the day, got back in TERN's Pharmaceuticals. So another name that's in the GLP-1 space. I'll have oral GLP-1 data at the back half of 2024. They have 3 studies going on. One of them has to do with, I forget what the acronym is. Um, Hang on a second. Of course, I don't have it up here right now, but CML, right? So I forget what that stands for. Something leukemia. But they just came out with a little data after the close yesterday saying that you could take it with or without food. There's no adverse effects. There we have some of the study going on in China. Um, so it's just another piece of this puzzle. But the thing with Terns Pharmaceuticals, it's a $330 million market cap. They have $263 million in cash. So it doesn't trade at cash value or less than cash value, but you're pretty much paying, it's 535 here, maybe 75%, 75 cents is the stock valuation, where the rest is the cash. So not saying that's how you should value every biotech name. Back when we had the big sell-off a couple of years ago, there was like so many names trading less than cash in the biotech space. But it's an early stage company. So what happens, you have a lot of cash because you're going to need to spend money on research and development, staffing, rollouts, uh, to get all your regulatory stuff in order. So all that stuff costs money. So you're going to need to have cash. So a lot of people look at, especially when I talk about VKTX and announcing earnings, it's really not earnings with these early stage companies. It's about what their cash position is, what's their runway. So TERN says they have at least till 2026 before they possibly need to raise cash, which means it kind of takes the overhang of an offering. So anyway, in a nutshell, really love turns here. Able to get some later dated calls at the end of the day. I put in the offer and I got 45. I was trying at 40, so then I got some more at 40. So my average is around 42, 42.2 or something. Not a big deal, but I may look for some higher strikes because I think, especially into the fall, I might look for some strikes into the fall because I think people are going to continue to look for opportunities to play the GLP-1 names in sympathy. And turns as one, GPCR, Altimmune, which got downgraded yesterday. I'm probably going to stay away from that one for now, but I'll stick to 1, 2, or 3 names. GPCR might be another one I'm getting. They're the next one that's going to report data. So that's turns. That's why I added those calls. Continue to look for opportunities. You look at the chart, the 50-day moving average is at 636. Last time I got the calls, it ran from like 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, somewhere there. Locked some in to cover costs. It fell back. I got the 750 calls and then those expired. So hopefully it's not a deja vu here. And again, I've said this over and over with turns. All the analysts have price targets substantially higher than where it trades now. 15 bucks, 17 bucks, 18, 20. Doesn't mean that's where it goes, but just kind of goes to show what the sentiment is out there for their pipeline and for their potential. So that's turns. Um, Not much here to add on VKTX. I posted on FinTwit this morning in the chat room. LLY reported a beat on earnings, a little miss on revenue, but then a monster guidance raise. And a lot of that had to do with their Zepbound and Wegovy, huge growth there. And the company added it's up $48 billion. Well, it's not 48 billion now, probably $42 billion in market cap. And if you divide the market cap of VKTX, which is about 8.5 billion right now, at one point it was 5 VKTXs it added this morning in terms of market capitalization just on their GLP-1 drugs. And here's VKTX, $8.5 billion. So, and I get comments on FinTwit, well, yeah, because they're so far away, it's going to take a while for them to get to market and what have you. But I just think one of these names, Pfizer, some of these companies that don't have their hands in the GLP-1 space, you would think this is a signal. Hey, get in before it gets really hot. That's VKTX. I was hoping it was going to break over 80 bucks in the pre-market. 77.50 again seems to be in a chop. Maybe today's day gets over 80 bucks. PayPal reported a decent quarter this morning, a nice beat. It looked like the bears were ready to pounce all the way down to 63 right after the report, and then it found a rally up near 72.80, and now it's trading here at 70 bucks. If it holds 70, I might look for some inexpensive calls, depending on if the premiums erode a little bit, maybe to play for a move to 75 or so. Kind of if it shows some strength today, I think that's the end of not the end. I think the folks calling for it to be a value story are going to have to wait maybe a year, a couple months, or a couple quarters. So I think there'll be an opportunity to play for upside. And you saw Square actually moving in sympathy with PayPal right after its earnings. So would love to get some Square calls, but the premiums up near 90, 92 or so. That's kind of where I want to go because they're pretty expensive all the way up through the 70s and 80s. But I might trade that one today, just add some calls and then look to lock some in on the way up. That's PayPal, that's Square. CAVA, I don't even know if I have the chart, but CAVA was up near 71 in the pre-markets, down here at 70 bucks after the pre-market fade in the markets. Unfortunately, it's up 3 days in a row, but the premiums on my calls are not going up in lockstep. So I don't want to be in a situation where it drops 2% today and my calls get decimated. So I'll probably just lock the calls in at the open or somewhere around there and then revisit either with less expensive strikes or if premiums start to come out, because it's been tough to watch this one, and it's up. I don't even know what it is up over the last 3 days, probably 16%, and my calls are barely in the green. So don't want to be in a situation where they go back to red and I don't use it as an opportunity to lock those in. So I'll probably do that today. Cardlytics is going to report May 8th, which is a week from tomorrow. Another strong session yesterday, was up nearly 5%, 5.2%. Bounced off that 50-day moving average. Really like this name into earnings. So don't be surprised. I mean, I'll probably wait if the market's going to sell off today. I probably not something I'm not going to be chasing trades today if that's the case, but hopefully find some support. AI, which still waiting to add some June strikes after May 17s. That one's holding nicely. Today could be, if we have a sell-off, it could give back all the games. I hope that's not the case, but to me, it looks like it found a floor around 23. That's down here at 22.78 in the pre-market. Hopefully that can find a bounce at the open. And then again, after the close, Amazon, Super Microcomputer, AMD, Riot, Starbucks, Pinterest, Going to be an interesting after-hour session, and then tomorrow's going to be the big day. So that's it. Hopefully, the markets can find some support here. Trupanion reports Thursday before the open. Lemonade reports earnings tomorrow morning, so maybe Lemonade could give a little sympathy boost. Trupanion, Riley's still up there at 38.94 first morning. I haven't really talked about Riley. Probably not gonna talk about it today. Premiums are too expensive for me to trade that on a risk reward basis. The thing could go to $50, but it also could go back down in the 20s. So I don't want to be in a situation. And not only that, it could just stay flat and kill the premiums on both sides. So just don't like any of those scenarios. Well, the latter two, because if on calls it goes to $60, that'd be great. But then the reward is not there. It's not going to be a 10 or 15 bagger like it would have been last week or the week before. It's only going to be up a couple 100%, which is not worth it to hold a premium rich expensive call, and you get the big move you're waiting for, but you don't make as much money as you should. You're not getting paid to hold that risk, right? As much as you should. So that's my rant. Let's have a great day, folks. 12 minutes to 9 o'clock, and we got about 42 minutes to open. Rock and roll.